The law of attraction is always working in our life, but we can create manifestation habits that change us in positive ways. And through these habits, we can begin to manifest more things that we choose to create in our lives. You really can't escape the law anyway, so it only makes sense to use it in your favor. And I received tons of emails and comments asking me if this manifestation stuff really works. And I simply wouldn't be such a strong advocate of it if I hadn't successfully applied it in my own life. So I'm often asked what my personal manifestation habits are that have created the most change in my life. And following are my top 5 law of attraction tips that I personally use in my own life and that can help you begin to make instant shifts towards the life that you want to live. Number 1 is be on your own side. Have you ever unintentionally sabotaged your own chances for success? Without understanding the reasons, maybe you've shown up late for an important appointment, or maybe you beat yourself up when things didn't go the way that you wanted them to, or maybe you knew that there was some action that you needed to take to help you reach your goal, but you just couldn't get the motivation to follow through with it. And all of these are examples of self-defeating beliefs and self-defeating behavior. And I've personally done this in my own life on certain occasions. Sometimes we just criticize ourselves and our own efforts more than anyone else would. But think of it like this. Would you tell a child that their artwork just wasn't good enough? Or would you berate a friend for making a cake that didn't quite look perfect? And in thinking about those two questions, what if it were your artwork or your cake and it wasn't flawless in your eyes? Would you criticize yourself for that? And would you have a talk with yourself about how you could have done better? Research shows us that identifying self-defeating beliefs is the first step to changing them. Yes, the law of attraction tells us not to focus on negative things, but you must acknowledge these beliefs and behaviors so that you can begin to dismantle them and build new beliefs in their place. You don't have to spend a lot of time focusing on them, just recognize what they are so you can begin to make a change within. For example, you might currently feel that you don't deserve to live a better life. But once you start to question why you feel this way, you can start to break down the old paradigms that block your success. Ask yourself what you feel you are worthy of having. If it's anything less than everything, you should challenge it. I ask myself what I feel worthy of all the time, and because now I choose to be on my own side, everything is always the answer. Take moments to congratulate yourself. Give yourself a pat on the back for a job well done. Look in the mirror and tell yourself how great you look today. Extend compassion and understanding to yourself. Become aware of how worthy you are. Tell yourself that you are love. Be grateful for your gift of life. Tell yourself that you are enough and realize that you already are perfection no matter what happens. Because our life is an outer reflection of our inner workings, a great place to start is with how we feel about ourselves. So learn to be your own cheerleader. Treat yourself the way you would that child or that friend. And when you begin to see all of the wonderful qualities that you have and treat yourself accordingly, the outside world will do the same. And when this happens, it's amazing how many opportunities and experiences just start to show up. So tip number 2 in my top 5 manifestation tips is to identify your dominant point of observation and then change it if you need to. Ask yourself, what do you focus on most? The current parts of your physical reality that you don't like, or the reality that you want to have. If you spend equal time observing both, then they effectively cancel each other out and leave you with a reality that's somewhere in between the two. However, it can sometimes be difficult to avoid what's in our face, so to speak. This is the tricky part of the law of attraction, and also why I outline learning to be on your own side first to create a solid foundation within. But from a physical reality standpoint, what is unwanted must be denied, while what is wanted must become the dominant point of focus. This was something I personally had to learn to take control of, and it does take a little practice, but it's definitely well worth it. When we're stuck in observation mode, we're recreating the same reality over and over. But by going into creation mode, we can ignore the parts of reality that we don't like and replace them with the things that we do like. Think of it like this. There are 2 notes playing on a piano simultaneously. One of those notes appears to be louder than the other one, and that's the one that you're probably going to hear. But you can consciously choose to disregard what appears to be the louder note while focusing on the other, more subtle note until you eventually begin to hear that note most dominantly as the other one begins to fade into the background. So it's kind of the same with reality. Our mind will always give back to us what we focus on. If we're constantly observing the same things over and over, that's what we're going to keep living. But if you consciously choose a new, dominant stream of information for your mind to work with, you go into creation mode. And this can take some practice to become good at pretending your life into being, but that's exactly what it takes. You're kind of tricking your mind into observing something different in your life so you can experience it. So make time each day to imagine and play in the realms of your mind, and then walk around in your dream as often as you can. And the more you practice this, the more experienced you will become. My third tip, which I'm sure is something that you've heard often, is to be grateful for everything you value. Gratitude's mentioned often in the law of attraction, but have you ever wondered why it's so important? Well, gratitude is the emotional signature or the vibrational frequency that something's already taken place. So when we're grateful for what we have and also grateful for the things that we've manifested in the energetic realm, the energy of the universe understands that these are the things that have already happened. And this produces a checklist of, yes, I like this, I'll take more of this please types of items. So here's how I do it. I always spend the first and the last 10 minutes of my day being thankful for any and everything. And of course, I'm grateful for things in between too. Sometimes we just get caught up in our daily routine and then we forget about all the luxuries and all the positive things that we have in our life. Food, clothing, a bed to sleep in, a toothbrush, friends, transportation, maybe a pet, a roof over our heads, books, sunshine, fresh air. So the list can go on and on when we really take the time to reflect on that. So take the gratitude challenge of waking up and retiring, emitting the same vibrational broadcast of all the things you're currently grateful for, as well as all of the manifestations that are energetically lining up for you. Life really is one big blessing if we choose to see it that way. And as mentioned in the prior tip, we're always going to get what we focus on. So tip number 4 is probably something else that you've heard as well. Meditate or visualize into sleep. If I had to choose one tip that has completely changed my life, this one's it. I spend every night visualizing what I want most while using guided meditation until I fall asleep. And I truly believe this has created more miracles in my life than anything else. So the way I personally do it is I replay the same scenario in my mind over and over, night after night, until it comes into fruition. But the most important rule to remember during visualization, and you've probably heard this before as well, is to incorporate feeling. This goes for both emotional feeling states as well as sensory feeling states. So I make a point to create a story that puts a smile on my face as I imagine it unfolding. And then I work myself up into a state of excitement about what's happening just by using the visualization process. I also try to feel the gait of my walk as I move through the scene, how my shoes or feet feel on the ground beneath me. I visualize all of the features of my scene in great vivid detail. I run my hands across objects and experience the texture against my skin, of course in my imagination. I smell the air and intently listen to the sounds around me. And sometimes I even put a gourmet meal in my scene so that I can integrate the taste of food that I love with my imagination. These stories become so real to my mind that I never doubt that they've happened. And once this takes place, the subconscious mind recognizes a void from a physical experience standpoint and goes to work to fill that void. So universal law states that if an event produces heightened senses, then heightened senses can produce an event. And this is known as the law of reversibility. If A can create B, then B can create A. For example, friction can produce heat. Therefore, heat can produce friction. And this is a fact. So, a physical fact can produce a psychological state. Therefore, a psychological state can produce a physical fact. And this is why visualization coupled with intense feeling states will manifest results with such great accuracy. So create a sensory-rich experience that you visualize each night as you fall asleep so it's absorbed by the subconscious mind. And then stick with it until you begin to see a shift in the direction of your manifestation. Some people are more skilled at visualization than others, so you have to be patient with yourself sometimes. When I started working with the law of attraction, my first undeniable solid manifestation took me 2 years of nightly visualization. So don't give up and just be patient with yourself. And make sure you have enough staying power and believe in your abilities, and it will happen. And my manifestation tip number 5, which goes well with the last tip, is get happy. I know it sounds kind of cliche, but if you can just get happy, then you're already winning. Because the goal of everything that we really want to experience, all the stuff that we think we want, is really because we think it's going to make us happy anyway. So it does take practice, but that's what life's all about, at least to me, is finding more ways to experience happiness. So what's the number one rule that you hear about with the law of attraction? Like attracts like. If you're happy, you'll attract more things to be happy about. But even more than that, if you're happy, you're embodying what you're already seeking, which is happiness. When we're already happy from within, we don't really want anything to be happy for. And since we know from scientific breakthroughs in quantum physics that like attracts like, if we're always in a state of wanting, we will just be creating more wanting. So actively look for things that make you happy. If you change the attitude of your mind, you'll change the aspects of your life. When we're able to find happiness in what we currently have and experience, and see things in our future as things that can simply add to our happiness, instead of what will make us happy, we begin to fall into a frequency that attracts so many wonderful things. Even if you don't feel happy, smile. The physical act of smiling tricks your brain into thinking that you're in a good mood, and then it will find ways to validate that. So those are my top 5 law of attraction tips and the manifestation habits that I've learned to create in my life, and they've drastically changed my life in really positive ways. I live a law of attraction lifestyle every single day, from the moment I wake up until I drift off to sleep, and I strive to consciously observe every mental and physical action that I take. And if something doesn't work, I just don't beat myself up about it. I view it all as practice. There's no mistakes, only learning. If you have a favorite law of attraction tip that you use that might help others out, leave it in the comments section. And I'll talk to you guys soon.